My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master Furendo Visitational. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of jiu-jitsu Te and jiu-jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Muhammad, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and Sanuces Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo Master and Professor of Sanuces Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of Sanuces Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan martial arts system, and president of the Family of Sanuces organization, Soki Haisan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, Sanuces Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, urban tactical street self-defense, and streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, us.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon. This is Wukan Shabazz from the Tenjo-Kai Dojo down in the beautiful Atlanta, Georgia, Warrior Within branch. Tonight, got a special guest, Grandmaster George Logan, one of the original 15 Grandmasters of the Sanuces Ryu system. Also, one of the youngest judo black belts in history ever. Very talented martial artist. He was a 5-time champion, Connecticut lightweight champion. He was a 4-time New England lightweight champion. And he was a 3-time Northeast lightweight champion. He also made it to the Olympic Games in the early 70s. He also won the U.S. Championship several times in judo, as well as World Championship several times in judo. He's a Grandmaster of Sanuces Ryu, and he's also a master in the VSK system, which includes Vijitsu, Sanuces Ryu, and Kumite Ryu. My co-host Shihan Salahuddin will be joining me any moment now. He hasn't logged in yet, but with no further ado, let me bring in my guest, one of the original Grandmaster, Dr. Moses Powell, Grandmaster George Logan.
Got a large audience there, huh?
Grandmaster.
All right, let's eye to eye, heart to heart.
Yeah. Okay. How was your day? How was your day today?
Oh, beating the cold, doing Theraflu the whole 9. Well, I'm still living.
Yeah. How's the snow up there in Connecticut? Do you guys still have a blizzard, or is it over yet?
Well, it was, we got like 12 inches. It wasn't that so much. It was the leaves on the trees, that caused the problem. Usually it doesn't snow, of course, not as much or any time during this month. Really, in October, it was unprecedented. And it was the leaves that caused all the problems. It weighted down the limbs, and they fell onto the lines and just caused a bunch of problems. We had poles down as trees as well. So that's what caused all the havoc, trying to get gas. But most of us subside by now. 6 out of 10 people didn't have electricity up here. I was one of the fortunate ones, so happy about that.
Grandmaster, right before I jump into the show, let me go ahead and bring my my friend, my brother, my Shihan, my teacher, Shihan Salahuddin.
Was Shihan?
Shihan.
Hear me?
Yes, Shihan. How the eye, brother?
Oh, hi. How we doing, Grandmaster? How we doing, Shabazz?
Oh, pretty good. How you feeling? Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, before we get started, I think I met you once before, and it's been boggling me since we've been talking. Where did I meet you at? You had breakfast with us at some point. I don't know if it was in Orlando at Sophie Littlejohn's seminar, or
I met
in
you
Philadelphia.
in 09. I think it was 09, and it was in Philadelphia, Philly.
Okay. All right. Yes, we had breakfast together, if I recall.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. It took me a minute to get it together. Okay.
All right. All right. So let me get right into this interview. All right, Grandmaster, how did you come into the martial arts? Tell me your history. How did you come into it? Just give me your bio. Tell me your story.
Well, basically, I came along in the '60s, watching Our Man Flint and James Bond and all of those kind of things. And then you didn't have to leave the theater at that point in time. Then you could sit there and watch it all day. And the movies then only had like 5 or 10 minutes, if that, worth of martial arts in it. And we would sit through, and they would have like two movies in a cartoon. So we would go through the 2 movies in the cartoon just to see that little 5 minutes of martial arts. And then came Green Hornet. Green Hornet came along then, and my interest grew. And I was a pretty good street fighter anyway, but then people started getting bigger, and I got to get something else going for myself. And so martial arts then wasn't a household word then, like I said, and wanted to get interested into the martial arts, and so my uncle paid for my classes. When I first started training at Tremont School of Judo and Jiu-Jitsu in the Bronx in 1967 under Antonio Paredes Sensei and stuff. And
you did the Grandmaster Miyamaru?
Yes, exactly, yes. He was one of the few people who trained at the Akikai in the Kodokan that was living at that point in time also. Very, very rigid, hard instructor. But of course, I wanted to get into karate because that was the thing to do at that point in time. Judo was, they did have more participants in judo, but karate in the hood was more prevalent. And I wanted to get into karate, but when going there, you had to be 16 to join a karate class, and you had to be 18 to do jiu-jitsu. So they convinced me to take judo, and a lot of blacks weren't in judo at that point in time. But I wanted to get in some kind of form of martial arts, and did so. And I was only like 12 years old at that point in time, and like 125 pounds, and it was a very, very hard class, the conditioning and everything like that, and I was running full basketball court games and thought I was in condition until I got into martial arts and seen that I couldn't do the exercises and stuff. And, when you're a kid, you start to smoke a cigarette here and there, and a pack would last 3 of us a month. And so I blamed it on the cigarette that I couldn't do the exercise. Never put a cigarette in my mouth since then. But went on to train with them for under a year there. And I remember, we had, being from the hood, we had that, that frame of mind where Caucasian or women couldn't fight. And I remember the 3rd day, he called me up to fight, and I was like, do what? And he was like, fight. And I got out, and this girl, this Caucasian girl, must have been like 5'6", 5'5". She threw me, and I got up mad. And so she threw me harder. I got more mad, and then she maki-komi. That's when you slam your opponent and fall into their ribs or stomach area. And it knocked the wind out of me. And I got up, and I was really, like, pissed off. And so she did it again. And so after that, her boyfriend joined in. He came, and he was a brown belt, and he threw me around. And I was humbled at that moment in time. And I realized that it is science. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with how tough you are, how tough you think you are. And I was humbled at that time. And went on from there. I went to Connecticut. I started training in 1968 with Sensei John Larley. When I got there, there was like 8 black belts, 4 brown belts, and about 2 purple belts. And I was the only kid there. Because then in the 60s and 70s, you know, the ratio was like 80-20 was adults. You know, now it's the opposite. There's more kids in the martial arts than there's adults. But at that time, there's very few kids in the martial arts. And so got there, and they would beat me down every day. Every day I took a licking, you know. Well, not every day, but 3 times a week they would beat me down religiously every class. And what had happened was that in Connecticut, when we used to go to the Nationals, United States Judo Championships, Connecticut wasn't doing that well. They was coming in like 18th throughout all the states, and they were trying to promote more fighters because, as you know, in judo, you have to go in front of a board of examiners for your rank. Your instructor can take you up to green belt at that point in time. And for your San-Q, Ni-Q, EQ, black belt, you had to go in front of a board. And so they had a lot of technicians and not a lot of fighters. So they were trying to produce fighters so we would do better in national competition. And so they gave some ridiculous point span that you had to reach within a 90-day limit and stuff. And if you accumulate so many points, it was a catch-22 is what it really was. And if you accumulate so many points within this time span that you was able to get a rank. And so I was used to fighting men that were heavier and bigger than me all the time anyway. In the dojo was no other kids but me. And so when I went to the tournament, I really didn't realize my status at that point in time because I never fought someone my age, nor my weight, nor my rank. So when I got there in the lightweight division, there was just a pile of people, you know. And like I said, I never fought them before. And the first competitor I drew was a Japanese kid, so I had this you know, Oriental thing in my head. But once I got a hold of it, it was a whole different concept. I got rid of him within a minute. In judo, you have the underbelts. The Qs have a time limit of 3 minutes. You can go 2 minutes overtime if need be. Black belts go 5 minutes. None of my matches went over a minute. And right then, I knew training with the higher ranks, you know, really helped me develop in judo. And I fought I fought in the senior division. And they would tell me, it was like, no, you want to go to the junior division. And I said, no, I want to fight senior. And they said, but you're 13 years old, you know. You should be fighting with the juniors. But I fought men all the time at the dojo that had better technique and, you know, had higher rank and were a lot older. So I went through, the white belts, and you actually fought from white to green belt. And I went through them very, very quickly. And so I made it to my next belt, which was a blue belt they had then, and made my point span again within the 90-day period. Did the purple belt. And this is how I went all the way to black belt like this. So the state championships was every year. I won the state championships as a green belt. I won the Connecticut and New England state championships. I did the same thing as the purple belt. And by the time I got to the brown belt, 4 out of those black belts at the school couldn't really do anything with me anymore. You know, I wasn't the uki anymore. You know, some of them were being my uki at this point in time. And by the time I got to Ni-Q, which is the second brown, you know, maybe like 2 or 3 of them. We had an international competitor that came from England, and he really, really gave me a lot of good techniques and really, really helped me out a lot in fighting. And went on to become EQ and won the New England championships and Connecticut state championships at that point, too. And so finally, when I accumulated enough points to go for black belt, we went in front of the board. And my instructor says he accumulated enough points for black belt. And he kind of chuckled and he laughed and he said he's 16 years old. And he said, yes, but he's been fighting seniors, since the beginning of time, since he started fighting at 13. And so they checked my tournament record and seen that was true. And so they had a big meeting about it. And we had Koreans. We were influenced by the Koreans at that point in time. We were still doing the Japanese Kodokan Judo, but we had high-ranking Koreans, so they called theirs Judo. So they wrote back to the Judo College and contacted the Kodokan in Japan and sent them my resume and my record.
Wow.
And they granted me my Shodan. It took me a year to get it. I made it in 1970. By the time I got my papers back from the United States Judo Federation in Japan, it was 1971 at that point in time and stuff. And I won the lightweight Connecticut championship like 4 times, New England 5 times. I won the Northeast championships a couple of times and was Olympic competitor in 72 also. So that's my judo career, so to speak.
Yes, so Grandmaster Logan.
Well, Grandmaster Logan, you're definitely the. I didn't know all that, man. In the Sanuces family, you're definitely the judo legend. I don't think no one could top that.
Yeah. I think that's unprecedented as we speak at this point in time. It's still usually what they do is they demote you 2 grades. When you are EQ, they bring you back to Sankyu and give you time to grow because they don't believe in junior black belts. So, it was by special recommendation that I had made that.
Grandmaster Logan. Grandmaster Logan, this is Shiel Sullivan.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Grandmaster, let me ask you something, because I'm a judo player also. Just being involved in judo so early, how has it helped you personally? Because a lot of things that I found out from going to dojos is a lot of people don't know how it really feel to play with people. When I mean play, I mean like randori. How you sitting there, you're doing kumikata, or you're doing uchikomis and stuff like that. And and from my experience, I see a lot of people are lacking in that development that you came up with through judo. Because I also play, like I say, I play judo. How does that help you as far as?
I know you're a judo player. You use that term. I played judo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, how does that help you and give you kind of like, I don't want to say an edge, but in my opinion, it is an edge over some other senior people.
Exactly.
How does judo help you?
It's helped me tremendously. As you know, judo comes from jiu-jitsu. So there's the cousin of judo. Jigoro Kano was a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and all he did was clean up the jiu-jitsu techniques and made it so you can compete. And so, yes, it helped me tremendously in jiu-jitsu because I understood leverage and balance. And that's a lot of things that a lot of people are lacking in judo. In jiu-jitsu, in jiu-jitsu. You can shock a man and everything, and, some people are more durable than others. And, and at some point in time, you might not even be able to shock him. You might be so close where you have to throw him first and then shock him,
Yes, sir.
And it helped me tremendously because you have to know leverage and balance. You have to, as simple as that. And a lot of people sweep with the knee bent or leaning forward, So Doc used to always call me out to do the judo techniques and do the chokes and things like this, because he knew that was my cup of tea, But you're so right. A lot of times I see people doing Osoto and their toes are pointing up in the air instead of being bent down. The leg is straight. They haven't broken the balance. A lot of times they don't step behind their opponent to break the balance, So now you got 1 foot in the air and he has 2 on the ground and you haven't broken any balance yet, It's just I see a lot of errors,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Grandmaster, let me ask you, how did you meet Dr. Moses Powell?
Well, I used to do Shotokan karate as well and stuff when practicing judo, and it was a friend of mine, and he was talking about this gentleman who was supposedly coming from New York to teach at this local center. His name was George X. Brumsey at that point in time. His name is Jihad Shabazz at this point now. But anyway, he came in, and he was from Brooklyn by way of Norfolk, Virginia, and had done some work with the FOI and stuff like that in Brooklyn and had knowledge of Doc, but never had trained with him. And he came, and at that point in time, he was mediocre, And he went to New York and started taking some classes with Doc, and I seen him like 6 months later, and what a transformation. He had the calm, he was smooth, picked up really, really fast, really fast. And he was the one who brought Doc through Connecticut, basically. He brought Doc through, I think it was in 1968, I think it was, in 1968. He brought him through for a demonstration at one of the local high schools. Then it was him and George Cofield, Grandmaster. Well, they wasn't masters; they were masters at that point in time. Doc was master; he was the fifth Don, and his name was Master Moses Powell at that point in time. And Master Cofield, which was a fourth Don at that point in time. And I was so wrapped up into the Oriental thing because this is all I knew and seen, And when I seen Doc, and first Cofield and them came on, and it was mind-blowing. He had the Wilder twins with him, which were internationally known for kata and fighting. And he had Hawk Frazier, one of the New York finest at that point in time, was a national rated fighter in the nation, and number one at that point in time in New York. And I've seen these guys before in the magazine, so to see them in person, was just mind-blowing, And they did a great, great demonstration, And I was like, what's going to top this? And then Doc came out. And I didn't know if he had his street clothes on or what, because Doc was always clean, always clean. The first time I seen him, he had on this looked like a Nehru top. It had the Nehru cut on it, and it looked like a dajiki. So it had the bell sleeves and the pants and the African, trimming on it and such. And he had this big diamond dangling from his neck. I remember it was blinding the people. and wow. He done some techniques, and I was, so I was used to seeing the karate thing, the hard blocks, because I studied Shotokan, and George Cofield was of Shotokan. And then Doc came out, and the guy threw a punch, and Doc turned 90 degrees, and the punch never touched him. And then you heard the rhythm start to build up. Then he touched him. He blocked. Boom. Then the next one. Boom. He was hitting him. Then boom. Boom, 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 boom. And it just kept on. The rhythms was just picking up continuously. And it got to sound like a machine gun, And at that point in time, I said, I'm doing the wrong thing. I need to do that. That's what I need to do. Yeah. And so I started training with Sensei George Brumsey at that point in time and stuff. And he would bring Doc through occasionally and stuff like that. And we were kids, And so we was elated every time we seen him come through, It was a big thing, and it always was. But, I mean, to see him there and to work out with him, was something else and stuff. And then later on, excuse me?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, my master. Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah. And then from there, I would give Sensei Brumsey judo, and he would teach me Sanuces and stuff at that point in time. And then one of my friends, the same friend who had informed me about Doc, had told me that Little John, and let me say this also at the demonstration, Little John was amazing. I mean, he was just he was so freaking fast you couldn't even see what he was doing. It was like a blur. And he had like 3 or 4 people attack him, and I mean, he just went off completely. I mean, I never seen nothing like that in my life. And then Doc comes up, and he had about 5, 6 people attacking him. And Little John was one of the people who was attacking him. And this was like a sparring session. And I mean, he was hurling these brothers all through the place. They had Brother Jeffries, these were the originals. Little John, Brother David from New York, Brother Jeffries, Pedro, and Lumumba. That was the makeup that he had, and the rest of the people were underranks. And they were the guys who were shining. And, I mean, that was a phenomenal demonstration. I'll never forget that and stuff. But after that, I was sold and had to get some of it and trained with Sensei Brumsey at that point in time and went on to train with him for about a year or so. And in 1971, I think it was, 1971, a friend of mine told me that Soki Littlejohn was going to be, at that point in time with Sensei Littlejohn, would be teaching in Bridgeport at Rex Lee's dojo. You're familiar with Rex Lee, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Grandmaster Logan. Rex Lee was actually my first teacher.
Oh, okay, good, right, the Goju.
Yes,
Goju,
yes, sir. Rex
yeah.
Lee was actually my first instructor. But go ahead.
Right, and so Sensei would go down there and teach on the weekends, and so we went down there and started training, with him there. And I remember the first time getting on the floor with him, I was very aggressive. I had won a couple of championships already by that time, but I was young, I was kind of cocky, And I remember him saying, let's move around some, let's move light. And I squared off, and I thought I was going light, but everybody told me after I kind of woke up that I wasn't. I came after with a good front kick, wheel kick, and usually I back somebody up, and he didn't back up. So now I tried a nice side kick, and he blended off of my side kick. And the next thing I know, I see it, and it was just timing. It was timing. Next thing I knew, I seen his heel in front of my face, like when your mother reaches out to hit you and you try to block it, it's too late. And he busted me in my lip. He caught me with the heel. And I fell to my knees, and I was halfway unconscious. And I still had my hands up. And I remember then we had the white karate gis then, and it was full of blood. And he smiled, and he said, oh, I like that. He's still in the fight mode. And I sat there for a second or two, and he said, defend yourself. And I had to start scrapping from the floor. And one of my friends was so afraid, he almost ran out the damn door. He thought it was really on. But that was the first time I had ever worked out with Little John, and I continued that. And he went on to train at Rex Lee for a couple of years. And
let me stop you at this point. So let me just kind of back it up. So at this point, you're fighting Sensei Little John, and you're a black belt. He was a champion. You had created history, and then you're fighting Soke Little John. And at this point, was Soke Little John's primary system at this point just simply? I know you had some background in Shotokan, but was his principal art at this point just Sanuces Ryu?
That's all it was Sanuces. Kumite Ryu came on till years and years later. All it was Sanuces.
But I knew
all
that. But the history, I think, from interviewing the Grandmaster Muhammad was that he had a teacher in Harlem that I think got sick or was about to pass away, and he wasn't he learned like Shotokan or something like that before Doc picked him up as a kid.
Well, yes, but that was brief. I remember him with like green belt or something, yellow or green belt. He was like 9 years old.
Oh, okay. So
he didn't have any really time in that, and I think his instructor's name was Buster or so, and he was getting leukemia or cancer and sent him on to die.
Right.
But a lot of his.
So this is my thing, Grandmaster. So you're sparring with Sensei at this time, Sensei Little John, and you're a national champion and all this, and Sensei in his level of skill was at a much different level from you coming to him from an Oriental-based judo system. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, of course, yes. Even karate for that matter. Like I said, I had studied some Shotokan as well, and of course they had the.
That's pretty
had a
phenomenal,
relationship
with
George. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and what's so phenomenal is that he makes you feel like a beginner. So he humbled me really good, especially after busting my lip, But, he makes you feel like a beginner. So I was like, oh, shit, there's a lot for me to learn now. Okay, let's go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. All right, Grandmaster, I remember you told me you spoke with Doc up until his death. What was his feelings on the state of Sanuces Ryu? And what did he want Sanuces Ryu to evolve into?
My phone rang. Sorry, I didn't get to hear that.
Yeah. When me and you had some phone conversations, I remember you told me that you stayed in contact with Dr. Powell up until his death, and I wanted to know what was his feelings on the state of Sanuces Ryu, and where did he want Sanuces to evolve into? What was his wishes on it?
Well, Doc wanted unity among everybody, really, and we had that unity at that point in time, Doc, if you wasn't with it, Doc tell you to step, as simple as that. It was no nonsense. Doc was a very dynamic personality, a very strong personality, charisma, the whole nine, the flash, everything. So he was, he wanted everyone to come together, and everybody was together. At that point in time. And And, you know, it was only one organization, you know, and it was Sanuces at that point in time, you know, that he was concentrating. I heard that there was supposed to be a subdivision. He was just trying to consolidate Sanuces at that point in time and stuff. And, you know, Doc he loved life. He loved life, and he loved to live, and he you know, and he loved Gina as well, and Gina loved him, you know, and they became like my surrogate parents, so to speak, you know. I remember when I got with him with the last 9.5 years of his life, I spoke to him on a daily basis every day. And when I first made that contact with him, I was at a tournament in Windsor, Connecticut. I had won a tournament of champions, and he had brought Grandmaster Tony and Jose and some other people up, and we had a tournament. And so, at any rate, I won the tournament, and so I was coming back, and he had some tapes for sale, and I was going to buy the tapes. And, you know, I was booted and suited. You know, I like to dress and do things. So Doc said, I like your combination. And I thought he was talking about the techniques I had done. And I said, I want to do some other techniques. He said, no, I'm talking about your suit, your combination that you're wearing. He said, but I can make your techniques a lot better, too. He said, I'm going to be moving in the Hartford. He said, I'm going to be teaching in the Hartford area because I'm moving to Vermont and stuff. And, you know, you need to come to class and stuff. And I had worked out with him prior to that before anyway, you know. But that's how I, you know, I started to train with him. And he took my number. We sat down, we talked, and, you know, and he was always my idol. So to be talking to my idol was like mind blowing, you know. And then he took my number, and he called me the next day like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so I went to the phone all grumpy and fussing and cussing, and like, you know, who is this other? And he says, this is Dr. Powell. And I was like, whoa, okay, you know. And
wow.
And this continued. It's just we really, really clicked, you know. Like I said, he was almost like him and Gina was almost like a surrogate father. He used to tell me, he said, I'm too young to be your father, too pretty to be your brother, and so I guess we're just good friends. But you know, he's just a wonderful person. I mean, you know, he's done so many things for me, and you know, and others. And, you know, everybody has their dark moments, and I was going through a dark moment at one point there, and my significant other wasn't anymore. And, you know, he kind of guided me through those things. He would call me in the morning, you know, ask me about my workout routine, where I was going to do, and where I was going to go teach at. And then I was starting to go into the school system. He encouraged me to go through the school system and spread this to the masses of people, not just try to get one person into your dojo, but go where the masses are. So he encouraged me to go through the school systems, and then I started working through the colleges, Southern Connecticut State College and Yale University, teaching the doctors and the nurses and lawyers and things like this. And he was so elated about this, you know, and he was just, you know, he just encouraged me so much to, you know, to go out and spread it, you know. And, you know, then so we would, you know, like I said, we would talk on a daily basis, and he was just so uplifting, you know. And the passing of my niece and nephew and cousin, you know, and at one point, you know, his hip had gotten bad. And, you know, he would just still come and said, no, Doc, you don't have to come. But, you know, he was always there, you know, and vice versa. On the passing of his mother and his father, you know, it was me, Gina, and a couple other people there and stuff. So, you know, it was just really, really became really great friends, you know. To have a great teacher is one thing, but to have a friend like that, you know. And I've had many friends, you know. And he told me, he said, when you start rolling me, some people might get, you know, might be player hating, maybe getting envious. I might get envious, you know. And so I was like, well, you know, I need techniques. I got enough friends. And I need a real friend. So we just really, really clicked, you know. And he was here so much so, a lot of times when Soki would call, or I would call Soki, I would put him on the phone. I said, I think you know this guy, you know, and they would talk, you know, and another Shihan Walter would call all the time, and Doc would be here constantly, and he'd be like, does he stay in there? You got a room for him there or what? And a lot of times he did stay because they were in travel, and Vermont's like 2 hours and 20 minutes away from here. So a lot of times on his way, you know, we would go to New York and things like that, and we would come back and it'd be late, and he would stay over, and then, you know, we were in Vermont every weekend. And him and another brother, Professor Greg McCall, which was his driver, you know, us four spent some really, really quality time together. And, you know, he gave me so much, you know, in that time. It seemed like time was flying. Even though it was 9.5 years, it felt like 9 minutes, you know, because he gave me so much, you know.
Grandmaster, let me ask you this next question. On one of your videos, you talk about a number system of how you teach. Explain to me the number system and what's its relevance to your martial arts in general, but to Sanuces specifically.
Well, you know, and seeing these techniques, they were so beautiful, and people were getting them so twisted. By the next time they got on the mat, everybody had a different version on what it was to be, you know. And I was like, it has to be some kind of way to lock these techniques down. You know, a lot of people, you know, you can only keep so many techniques on your mind anyway, on the top of your head. And so when they come back, everybody had a different version of it. And I thought it has to be a way to preserve these things. So I would do these techniques step by step. As a matter of fact, I used to bring my camera there, and Doc hated video cameras. But he seen, you know, that I was going to do something with it, and I was telling him I'm recording these techniques because I want to duplicate these things once I get home. I don't want to forget these things. And so I would bring my camera to class, you know, and a lot of people would fuss because he didn't let them tape, but, you know, he let me tape, and so I did so. And so, you know, as Funakoshi had his katas numbered and stuff, I said this must be a way to preserve it. So what I done was I do it step by step. And Doc would always encourage me. He says, you know, I would do it. He'd show me a technique, and he was like, now put your thing on it. And I said, all due respect, Doc, I'm going to do that. I'm definitely going to do that, but I need to know the way that you done it, the textbook way. Okay? This is what I need to know, and I can always put my own thing on it later on, because that's what happens. He'll show 6 moves, and you've heard him on some of his interviews. He said, I'm going to teach a technique, and we'll see how many instructors can come out here and duplicate what I just done. You know,
yes,
and so with that, you know, I would try to do it the same way that he would do it, and I would go back and study the tapes and everything. So I started to number the techniques. So at the end of the day, the end of the week, end of the month, end of the year, we know what we learned. You know, this way we can consolidate with, you know, and have some kind of system on holding on to the techniques and stuff so they wouldn't be watered down, you know. And so I started numbering the techniques. So I have 10 techniques in every set. Okay, so we'll have technique 1, technique 2, technique 3, and on and so forth. So, you know, and as Doc say, each technique has 100 variations, okay, 100 modifications to it. But I think you need to know the textbook way first. You know, we're not Doc. A lot of people go out there, so Doc may do 6 moves, and they pull off 2 or 3, and then they pass it on. Then the next person puts his 2 or 3 on it, and then the next person passes it on. And before you know it, it's watered down, and it looks like nothing like Sanuces. Nothing like Sanuces. So this way here, and I told Doc, you know, and I said after I had done this, I told him what I had done. I had done the same thing with Kumite Ryu. And doing so, I showed him, and he said, yeah, okay. And then the next day, Gina had called me, and he was like, Doc looked at the tape, and he was amazed. He said he almost had tears in his eyes, and he was like, nobody never took the time out or the effort to do anything like this. And then the next time I seen him, he congratulated me on it and you know, gave me his blessings and stuff. And we talked about this, too. Also, you know, when he had left for a period of time and went to Florida and Georgia, people, you know, had kind of graded themselves and did everything else that they wanted to do. And so we spoke about making tapes using this number system for grading, just like you do in judo. You have to know X amount of techniques, you know, to pass your grade. And this way, you know, he could keep Sanuces in its pure form, you know, and not what people think it should be, you know. And we all can expand, but, you know, I think that you have to know the basics first. It's like a house. You have to have a good foundation, you know, before you have anything. After that, you can build on it, and you can make it as pretty as many rooms as you want, but you need a solid foundation first to work from, you know. I'm pretty sure if I'm growing up, nobody wants to see Logan Ryu. They want to see Sanuces Ryu. You know?
Hey,
yes, sir.
Let me ask you, how many sets how many sets have you recorded? Do you have total in your library?
I have 10 sets. 10 sets so far, and I don't number everything. You know, just to, you know, and all of it's fascinating, all of it's good. But, of course, we can't number everything. But, you know, the more outstanding things is the ones that I number and hold on to. And I'm going to be having a tape out shortly with these techniques, the way I got them. Not the way I wanted them to be, but the way I received them, step by step, move for move, the whole nine, And if Funakoshi had not numbered, and I told Doc, if Funakoshi or Miyagi-sensei within the Goju system had not numbered their kachas, there wouldn't be any Goju. There wouldn't be any Shotokan at this point in time. There would only be people thinking, well, it went like this, and no, it went like that, and you wouldn't have anything.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So Grandmaster, so when it comes to preserving the Sanuces as the art form, that's basically your methodology, the number system, correct?
Yes, that's me. I kind of handed it to Soki, and it worked for him very well, as when he was creating his own system. And it just, just like filing your bills. If you throw them around the house and it's time to pay the bill, you don't know where the hell it is. You got to check the house looking for it. But if you put them in a certain place, you know where they are, and you can always go back and get them. So on your bad day, it's really sad. You see a lot of brothers who've been training for X amount of years, 10, 20, 30 years, and a lot of times you can go up on them, you say, show me 10 techniques. And they start stumbling and stuttering and repeating the technique and modifying it. This time they do it with a kick. This time they do it with a kick punch. Next time they do it with a kick punch throw, So I was like, wow, all the other systems, if you ask them to show you your style, they can do so without hesitation. And so that was another reason why I wanted to do this, So on your bad day, I can say, okay, technique 1, set 1, technique 2, technique 3, technique 4, set 2, technique 5. And we all know what technique we're talking about because we're doing it the same way, okay? You can do what you want when you get to, when you get to your dojo or you're working out on your own time, but for testing and preserving it, we all need to do it the same way.
Grandmaster, I want to build with you on that, right? I want to just talk more about that. Let's just take, for example, okay, so you got 10 sets, so that means you got 100 core movements, and that's a lot. And I mean that's a lot from Doc because like the brother Professor Watson said in the last interview, he said Doc said that one technique is 1,000 variations. So
exactly.
So you actually have 10,000 techniques in your 10,000 techniques minimum in your in your video library. But my question is, how does it get from Doc, the world's greatest martial artist in the 21st century, Doc probably the greatest martial artist to ever live, and it goes from you walk with this man. So you're based like a disciple. You know what I mean? Like you guys are like the disciples. I'm a living disciple. So I don't know where you fall. I don't know if you're Mark, Luke, John, wherever you fall in that, but you're one of the disciples. So you have a disciple. You got these techniques, and now you've taken it from seeing this living being. You got it on film. Now you got instructors. Now, what do you think about instructors who may have one technique, and then they say, I'm going to modify it, or they may say, I'm going to make it better. You know what I mean? Or they may say, I'm going to shorten it. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you shorten greatness? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you modify greatness? I want you to answer that.
You would have to ask them that because I don't follow that route. Like I said, I've done it the way it was taught to me. Then I modified it. I don't know about making it any greater. But, I once again, I think, you need to know the textbook way. And a lot of brothers forgot and didn't know. And this is why they put their own little fillings in it. And Doc tells you that on his videos. A lot of times people forget, I can teach a technique, and they come out and they already have that concept in their mind that, I have the room to create. And so they do so, and they get so far away from what he done. It's ridiculous. It's like the footwork that Doc uses. I mean, he used to say that's the horse that carries you into your battle, the tank that brings you into the war. And a lot of people don't even see that. They just see the finished product, and they don't know what it is that that makes that work. Because they're so interested in learning a block, and I'm put my own thing in it. And so you wind up with it so watered down. Like I said, by the time it gets passed down and passed down and passed down, it looks nothing like its original form. If I'm producing baby, if I have a baby, and it comes out with blonde hair and blue eyes, then I know it's not my baby. You know what I'm saying? Something's wrong here.
Grandmaster, let me ask you, what's the difference in the training between back in the day in the 70s versus, when the first time you saw Doc, between that time and now? What's the difference in the training?
Well, there's a lot of differences. First, in the 70s, we were training for the revolution. You know what I'm saying? We really thought we were training for the revolution. I mean, you had like Stokely Carmichael and Rat Brown, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was in power at that point in time, and you never knew what was going to happen. The brothers had a sense of pride then, you know. They had a sense of pride. And with that movement going on, it was a must. All the Muslim brothers were training. I don't care what chapter you were in. If you were a green belt and you was at that chapter, and there was no other higher rank than you taught, and it was mandatory, And then you had the Panthers. They were training, And both the Panthers and the Muslim brothers would come knock on my door, one on the front, one on the back, and they were trying to draft me at that point in time because they wanted to train, of course. And so the mentality was totally different then because you were so much serious. You had to be serious then because you never knew what lied ahead. So that that just the mental thing was totally different. And we trained for 3 hours. We used to train for 3 hours. We trained for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. We would exercise for a half hour. And the things that we done, we didn't run through them. We really focused on what we were doing and drilled on what we were doing. I remember being in horse stances so long that I swear to God, we left it. We'd be out in the park, and it would be like 98 degrees, and so you'd be like, get from under that shade is a nice day to sweat. We would be in the horse stand so long that I swear to God, when you move, you see your imprint in the grass, And if your knees buckle, he had the shanai, and he would tighten you up with it, and he'd smack you with the shanai, and your stances would get stronger all of a sudden, and stuff. And stances and things like that are important, because now when you get to fight, if you have lousy stance, I've seen it. You spend more time on the ground, you do standing up. And a lot of brothers didn't know how to fight on the ground, but if you have lousy stances, that's what's going to happen. And even in a self-defense fight, a lot of times you might have to cover the distance, so you might have to know how to kick. And if you're going to kick him, let him be known that he's been kicked. And if you're going to touch him with your hand, he got to know he's been punched, because a lot of times you might not get that second chance, And so the training was so much different then. Like I said, we would train and it would just kick till you couldn't kick no more. And then we'd punch. Then we would throw till you couldn't throw anymore, And then we would train on wall techniques. You would get against the wall and you would do self-defense techniques on the wall. Then we would do them in the chair, Then we would fight on the wall. They would put you on the wall and you fought a man and you couldn't come off the wall. And then they would add another man to it. And you had to fight them both with your back up against the wall. And they were saying that the wall could be a friend or it could be an enemy. In this case, it was a friend because we knew how to fight against the wall. And in the street, you never want no one to get behind you. So we practiced fighting on the wall. And we would go up to 3 or 4 people fighting on that wall, and stuff. And then we used to do blindfolded fighting, and you had to listen for the sound, the ruffle of his gi, his breathing, that kind of a thing. And it would tune, of course, it really helps your senses tremendously when you have to depend on them like that, And then we would turn off the lights and we would do free falls, just like a brawl. And we would turn our backs, and they would say, go. They turn the lights off, and you start fighting. And you would identify someone by the kick you hear going by your head,
Well, so Grandmaster Logan,
yes, sir.
you guys, seriously, I mean, just from what you're describing, you guys had to have a lot of injuries in the dojos, and you guys just had to keep training, huh? I mean,
exactly. But you know what? We were young. And we healed fast.
Oh.
We were young and we healed fast,
Man,
and if you didn't have blood on your gi by the end of the week, it was like, well, what kind of training did you do? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, times have changed, Grandmaster.
Yeah. And then Smokey, at that point in time, he was, he was the king of Sunnyside Garden. He was the king of Sunnyside Garden and any other garden that they had and stuff. But and so he would stay in shape on us. And that day, after you fought everybody in the class, I don't care how big or small they was, woman or female, man or boy, it did not matter. After you fought everybody in the class, then you had to fight him, So, you know, and this was every class, you know. But he was staying tuned up. He would bring down Sugar Crossum and stuff with him, and we fought him, and he would bring down Wildcat Molina, and then a couple of the Wilder twins would come down, and, you know, because he had a relationship with them as well because of Doc and George Cofield being good friends, you know, at that point in time. And that's where he got a lot of his katas from. You know, Doc taught him karate, you know, the kick punch, you know, and all of that. But he got the formal Shotokan kata from the Wilder twins. They were good friends. He taught them jiu-jitsu. And they kind of took our jiu-jitsu, and we took a little bit of their karate, you know. And, you know, Sanuces went through phases anyway, you know. They went through the kind of karate jiu-jitsu phase, you know. Doc, Ed Pugh was a good friend of Doc's and stuff, and so they went through the kind of karate kind of a phase, karate jiu-jitsu phase, and then it went to kind of the then Cofield came into play, and they, you know, did the same thing once again, but it was a different flavor. And then Marcy, which was a Bondo fellow and one of Dr. Mungee's top students, he came in, and then Doc worked with him and Dr. Mungee and brought that flavor into it as well. And also, Doc was a boxer. He did Golden Gloves, you see. So what Doc really did was give the black man his body back, because we were moving like robots up until that point in time, you know. We were trying to move like the Orientals, you know. And as you know, the Asian black man started the martial art. So it came full circle, you know, and Doc showed you how to use your natural movement and stuff. And we put the shit to the slide.
Grandmaster, you know, you touched on boxing. Now, before I actually got into martial art, I used to box in the PAL. I used to box in the PAL in Brownsville in East New York. And when I used to box, all the years all the time I boxed as a kid, you know, I never really seen too many injuries in the boxing gym. But yet I know for a fact, if I take some of the brothers who taught me how to fight boxing, and you just did boxing, forget karate, just hand skills, I would say 9 out of 10 of them would knock out most of these karate guys off top. And but the thing about their skills, it was like the concentration. It was like a science. Like when you go to the gym, it's conditioned. You learn how to jab. You learn how to do foot movement. You learn how to bob. You learn how to weave. You learn how to set them up. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what is the difference between where does the mentality of injuries come in versus and why is it in boxing, which is a very dangerous sport? I mean, a boxer could kill you. You know, if you don't know how to fight a boxer, hit you the right way, he can literally kill you. But why is it that in boxing gyms there's not really too much injuries, but in the martial art world, in certain it is like why is that? In boxing, it's just as dangerous.
Right. Well, any combat is dangerous, but I would think because we're using more limbs, we're going to more concentrated areas. We know the anatomy more, you know, than the average boxer. They're almost like the sport karate. You know, I'm going to punch you here between your face and your stomach. Above the belly button, that kind of a thing, you know. We're attacking all parts of the body, and Doc uses all parts of the body, you know. So when using kicks, of course, your legs are a lot stronger than your arms. You know, you walk on them all day. Try walking on your arms all day. It's not gonna happen. So because I think martial arts is more dangerous, really, than boxing, you know. Boxing is a sport.
Well, you know, boxing is a martial art.
Yeah,
you know,
but I think martial arts is a complete martial art.
Yeah.
Because we're using more limbs. You know what I'm saying? We're using, Doc would use everything on his body, his head, his elbow, his heel, his knees, you know, any and everything, his nails. He'll bite you, you know, whatever it took, you know, whatever it took.
Grandmaster, before I move into the heart-to-heart segment, let me bring in the Joker and see if you have any questions. Joker, what's up? Joker.
Hello?
Hello?
Are you there?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing, Grandmaster?
All right, look, I'm going to be all right. Yes.
Hey. Oh, yeah, I had to mute my phone because my dog was barking. But, I do have a few questions. I know Sensei he kind of hit on it a little bit earlier when he started talking about the judo, and I didn't know that you had a judo background. And actually, right after
after we finished practicing tonight, I brought it up to him that I was going to ask you. I do see a few clips on the YouTube. I've seen you you type in Sanuces, your clips come up everywhere, all over the place. And I do know that you do the number, with the strikes, and a lot of strikes. And I was asking Sensei about your throws. Do you know about a lot of throws? And I was just going to ask you that. And like I said, Sensei hit that on earlier about judo, because when we train, we do a lot of things I don't see a lot of times, and that's a lot of throws. Like we do the ippon, marote. We do a lot of different techniques and throws. I really don't see it in a lot of dojos. So do you teach a lot of the judo throws when you're teaching jiu-jitsu also?
Of course. That is the basic format that we work from. I believe in having a good kick and punch format and a good judo format. Definitely. You have to know leverage and balance. And Doc taught me body mechanics. What is a man going to do when you hit him in the groin? His head's going to come forward. You hit him in the head, he's going to go back. His throat will be exposed. So, yes, I teach a lot of judo, because, that was my first love. And I want to make sure that my kids are proficient in judo, because, like I said, I see a lot of jiu-jitsu people who are not really doing it, correctly, and ninjutsu people and what other jitsu, too, goes along with it, So, yes, we have a very strong judo base, and we do a lot of newaza as well. We do a lot of newaza stuff, because a lot of people think that they're going to be standing up all the time, and that's BS, because if you don't knock a person out, you know what I mean, with the first punch, or you punching him hard, or he's punching you hard, you're going to clash. And once you clash, you better know how to throw. And then 8, maybe 6, 7 times out of 10, you're going to be on the ground. And if you're down, you better know what you're doing.
But Grandmaster, yes. I want to add on to that, because I've been doing judo, I guess, since 95, 96. No, actually about 97 I started playing judo. And as I haven't seen a man yet that of course you can box, you can jab, you can float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, but eventually we're gonna get some type of clinch on, and there's a lot of people, even within the Sanuces communities and the Sanuces families, that think they can't be taken down, or once somebody gets a hold of them, they can't be taken down. I'm serious. Right. My challenge is, I've always said, listen, I'm a big guy, but I don't need to use my size. If I get my judo grips on you, I don't care how good you are. If I got my judo grips on you, and before you can do all that super fly, Jimmy Snuka stuff on me by poking my eyes out, I'm a Uchimani or do whatever I need to do, and you're going to be on your head.
Yeah, gosh, Johnny gosh, whatever. Bounce you back on the ground, for that matter. Yeah. Exactly. And the Gracies proved that point. The Gracies proved that point. When I was doing this movie one time out in L.A. and stuff, and I was at the Ed Parker's International Karate Tournament, and we went out into the hallway, and we seen these tapes. They had these tapes and gis and everything else was out there for sale, and so they had a monitor and was looking at it. It was in black and white. And they had the Gracies, which I thought were judo people at that point in time, because all they're doing is modified judo anyway. That's all it is.
Yes, sir.
But at any rate, and stuff, they had the Japanese Shotokan team was fighting these guys, and they had 15 members on each team. And these guys was loading up with their front Maya Gettys and Mawashi Gettys, and they would block them. They would block that one kick or one punch, and they would move in, take them down. When they get them down on the ground, it was like a fish out of water. They would try to turn over, and they'd get choked out with hadakas, and they would get elbowed and everything else. So long story short was, out of 15 matches, they won 14. And then they tied for the last match. So when they came to United States with this, and then I guess it was 94, 93, or whatever, it was no surprise to me. But it was to a lot of people, because you still have people think, I'm not going to be taken down. I'm going to knock them out with one kick, one punch, and that's that. And like you said, if you get your hand, like Doc said, if I touch you, you can forget it. I have you. Simple as that. It's a done deal. And if you just know a little bit bit of judo. I don't care how big the guy is, he won't be able to pick you up. And so I try to get this basic to my students, just the footwork, the do's and the don'ts. Don't never cross your foot, stay afloat, this kind of a thing. So even if you can't throw them just defensively, if you take a course in judo, within the third class, you're probably going to learn enough where someone bigger than you can't just pick you up and throw you down. Kind of a thing,
Sir.
So judo is very, very relevant. And I found that out when I went to the streets, and I'm from the streets. That's no secret. And, the first time I had a fight on the street, this guy was like 6'4", and he was turning away and some things had happened and stuff. And so, I told him to stop. He turned around, tried to sucker punch me. I caught him with a good uppercut. He respected the uppercut. He breathed in. He was wheezing. And at the same token, he pulled me right to him. Right, he just lifted me up basically and pulled me to him. And I'm saying, you made a big mistake. And I hit him with a driving Osoto Makikomi, and his head bounced off the ground like a ball. And I hopped up, and he was like, had his hand like trying to protect us. I smacked his hand down, caught him with a back fist, and it must have broke his nose. It was just blood just spurted all over the place. And and then I do what we do. I followed up with a couple of heels to the head, and that was that. But then I knew how prevalent judo really was. Because that was the first time I ever used it, and a real street fight. And after that, I used it a few more times. But I understood the importance of knowing how to throw.
Hey, Grandmaster, but the same way how you see the judo, and I respect the judo because even when I train at the Senjo band, like my teacher, he's nice with the judo and all that. But coming more from the northern environments, it was always with the hand skills. You know what I'm saying? Like everything was with the hand skills. And just to tell you, a lot of the brothers always depend on the hand speed and things.
Right. And so that's why I was one of the few blacks in judo. At that point in time, besides being a kid, I was one of the few blacks that was in judo.
But I'm gonna tell you a true story I saw. One day I was with my homeboy Jerry, and we was coming from the corner store, and he had his hand in a cast, and he was actually one of my. We used to box. He was more advanced than me. He was a Golden Glove and all that, and he was my. But I was like under him. So we coming from the corner store, going back to the building, whatever. And there was these three guys across the street. And so one of them had beef with my man. They ran across the street. I knew two of them, so I kind of was like, listen, just let them shoot the fair one. It was like summertime, was night, and like you say, you from the street, so you know how that can be. So I tried to talk it out, and I was like, listen, just shoot the fair one. Jerry had his hand in a cast. He had all he had was his one hand. He just had his one right hand. The dude had both his hands. I made, the two cats I was with to make sure they didn't try to jump in. I let them go at it. Grandmaster, everything, to Allah. I'm not lying to you. They started fighting. Jerry knocked them out in 15 seconds. His tooth was on the ground, blood was all on the ground, and Jerry had his hand in a cast. I'm not, word to everything. I'm Muslim, to Allah, strike me dead. I was right there. I was like 17, 18, and even the dudes that was on the other side, they was like, damn. You know what I'm saying? The nigga threw both. I'm seeing cat threw both his hands. You know what I'm saying? Like like he was a big dude too. Jerry
right.
He had his hand in a cast. He broke his arm. He just had one arm. Knocked this dude out.
Wow.
Knocked this dude out. Wow. And the fight didn't even go. You know what I mean? Like as soon as he threw it, Jerry was so nice. Like it was like as soon as the fight was like blah, and the fight was over.
Yeah, and usually that's how long a fight takes too, is moments.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it wasn't, he couldn't even, and he had a cast on.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. Like that's a crazy story, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. So that's why so boxing, you definitely can't sleep on that.
Right.
Yeah. All right, but Walker, you have any more questions before I go into the heart-to-heart segment?
Yes, Grandmaster. There's one thing that when I do see you, and I know that you always present yourself in a certain way. You always have a certain attire on. You always, you have your rag on. You have your hands wrapped up. Where did that come in at?
Well, I have bad wrists. I got to protect them. I have bad wrists from, throughout the years. And I asked the doctors about that, and they said it's, just your body makeup. It's like a car, the parts wear out and stuff. So I've always had, have to protect my hands and stuff. Right. I was supposed to get an operation on them, and Doc tried to encourage me. It's like, hey, do it. And I was, and he kept asking me about it, but I never done it. But yeah, that's why I usually have my wraps on. And then plus, we hit a lot of heavy bags and things like that too, And a lot of times, I've probably done damage to it in the early years by not wrapping my hands up, by hitting the mitts and the heavy bags and things like that, And I probably did damage like that because I would go home at night and my hands would be swelling and pain, was set on. And, so when you learn how to punch, just a lot of pressure on the joints, when you learn how to punch correctly. So, I wasn't wrapping my hands at that point in time, so I paid for it later on,
All right. I'm getting ready to go into the heart-to-heart segment, so let me...
I love the special effects.
We're working on it, brother. We're working on it.
Okay. All right, Grandmaster, here I go. How does VSK differ from Pure Sanuces rule, which is the most superior martial art in the world?
Well, the difference. The difference is probably one of the things is the number system, trying to keep it pure. Like I said, when all we ever did from the time I trained with Soki from 1971 up until 80 was nothing but Sanuces. Sanuces came with Sanuces. Kumite-ryu was founded in 1980. Okay. Because of Soki's, relationship with Shotokan and the Wilder twins and things like that, and these are the things that Doc taught him. And a lot of the things that all Soki did was take those fine things and fine tune them. That's all. With Doc was so busy creating things. You might do stick work one day and knife the next, and the two-man form. Doc started that long ago. It had some reel to reel when Soki must have been about 14 years old or something. And him and a girl was doing the beginnings of a two-man form, And this was way before the karate movies and all that stuff that came out and stuff, So these things, Soki, all he did was took them and refined them and concentrated on those things, And the kicking and punching is very important. And a lot of times today, a lot of the Sanuces participants don't even kick anymore. We was at a function one time, in the 80s, and Doc had to tell Soki to take these people to the side, and they had some rank on them. You hear me? They had some red and whites and different things around their waist, and he told them to take them to the side and show them how to kick again. He was like, "What's the matter? You guys don't do this? If you forgot how to kick, you don't do this when I'm not here? So, those things and stuff are the things that, basically it's the same, Basically it's the same. Except Doc may put more colleague blocks and things like that in, than the Kumite-ryu. But basically, it's somewhat the same. The outsider doesn't know the difference between Sanuces, Bijitsu, or Kumite-ryu. Only the participants will know, the people who practice this will know the finer points and what the differences is, So it's not that much of a difference. It's just a brand. Doc, I remember seeing him right before he went to Florida, he did a demonstration. It was 1979, and he said Professor V and all of that, they came to New Haven, it must have been like almost 100 of them. It was a phenomenal demonstration. And at the end of it, he said, Professor V is the seed. He said, I'm the trunk of the tree. He said, Little John is the branch, and you guys are the leaves.
Oh, that's deep.
So there's always going to be a connection there, you like it or not. You know, when Doc stepped off and went to create Sanuces, he didn't forget jiu-jitsu. You hear what I'm saying? Did not forget jiu-jitsu. That's what his basis was, jiu-jitsu. He just add to it. You know, that's all he did. And you know, Professor V, you know, when he speaks of when they first on any of his interviews and stuff, and they asked him who are some of your students, the first thing that comes out of his mouth is Moses, and he'll say Little John, and then from time to time he'll say Sugar Crossing as well and stuff. You know. So there was no animosity there or anything, you know. It's just that, you know, he didn't forget where he came from. As simple as that, you know. And like I said, it's hard for a lot of people to even detect the differences. You know, Doc might slip and slide a little bit more because he got the Sato in it. All of a sudden, he doesn't do just traditional boxing. He got the 52, the Sato, you know, the kind of dirty boxing. And he combines so many things. The Bondo, I've seen so, and I was at a function about a month ago up here in Hartford where Dr. Mungia came in. And they had a documentary on Bondo. And I've seen so many moves that related to what Doc does. You know? And then I said, wow, okay, this is what, and I knew he had, you know, he had worked out with Dr. Mungia because I had this conversation with Dr. Mungia before. I was very privileged that, you know, he took to me. His nephew used to train with me. And what had happened was his nephew told me, he says, oh, my uncle's coming to town. He's an old guy. He knows a little bit about martial arts. Do you want to come by and talk to him? So I said, oh, yeah. So he said, yeah. He said, he's an older guy. He knows a little bit. I said, what's his name? He said, oh, G, Mung G. I said, what did you say? He said, Mung G. I said, you talking about Dr. Mung G? He said, yeah, I think they call it, Dr. Mung G. I said, he's not just some old guy who does martial art. He's one of the premier martial artists in the world. You know, he was one of the first people to teach martial arts in the United States, especially the blacks, you know. And so I went to his home, and they had been watching some tapes on Doc, and that because I used to always tape the workouts. So he was watching some of the tapes that his nephew had with Doc and me and us, everybody working out. So when I came, you know, he was like, oh, us, you know. He said, I never thought my nephew wouldn't throw a grape in a fruit fight. Now you got him to be a fighter. So he was amazed at that, and it's so. You know, and you know, he was praising me, and I'm like, no, you the man and stuff. And he was like, no, but you know, you're one of Doc's, you know, you're one of Doc's students. You know, he has so much respect for Doc. You know, and his father was the president of the Bondo Association as well, and they have so much respect for Doc. I mean, it's just like they idolize him. You know. And he said that his father said that these things that Doc does comes from the earth that was here before. You know, they believe in reincarnation and things like that. And they were saying a man that young couldn't have that kind of information. You know, he said the last time I seen him, he said, you know, Doc is so phenomenal. He says that he's like the person you put him in front of a piano who never had a lesson before to play a concert. You know, kind of a thing. You know, and stuff. So. You know, but I've seen a lot of the movement as well, you know. So Doc just mixed it up so much, you know. And so I tried to hold on to some of it because, you know, I know Doc is always in the traffic. So from day one, I said I have to preserve this and I have to hold on to this because I've seen people who got on the mat on Monday and they come back Wednesday and they didn't even know they forgot what they'd done Monday because they were so hyped that, well, I'll get some more when I go back. You know, so I don't need to remember that. I'll get some more. And it kept going like that. And people were charged up every time they seen Doc. You know, it was like a demo. You know, so a lot of them were so caught up in what Doc was doing that they forget about what they were supposed to have been doing. You know, and so.
Hey, Grandmaster, let me ask you a question. You know, one of the things that constantly keep reoccurring in these interviews, like, oh, by the way, this is our 20th interview. So I want to thank you, you know, for, you know, coming on our 20th interview, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But no, but what I want to ask you, though, is Doc left New York in 78, 79, you know. And, like for instance, like the Grandmaster interview night before, Grandmaster Crossing. You know, like you said, even the Sister Arlette, you know, it was a vacuum. Everybody went their own way, you know. Sugar Cluster went his way.
Great interview with him too. I agree 100% on the things that he said.
Yes. So he went his way. He said, him, Soapy Littlejohn went their way, and so then the Comite rule came about around that period. Sugar rule came around 1979. So Doc is in Florida. He's out. He's out for like a good decade or more. So while he's in Florida, doing what he's doing,
he would occasionally come back to New York also. I remember he gave the first seminar in 1980. A year after he went, when he came back, people didn't know what seminars were. They were like, "What are we going to do?" It was at Lamar Thornton's at the Harlem YMCA, and he would always come back, and he would come to train with Soki, and he would come down. It was at 123, so he would come back occasionally. It wasn't like he just stayed in Florida for 10 years and never returned.
Right. But let me ask you, though, but when he did come back to New York, how long did he stay in New York for?
When he came to New York, maybe about 4 years, three years maybe.
No, I'm talking about from 79 to 1989. Between those years. You forget about when he came back to Worlds Collide around 90-91. I'm talking about between 89 and 70. Let's say between 89 and 79. When he did come to New York, how long did he stay in New York in those 10 years period?
Well, I remember him leaving in 79 and coming back to do seminars and things like that. But he didn't return to the New York area to teach until, 92 or something, 91, 92, somewhere around there.
And so that's about 13 years. So now 13 years, Soapy Littlejohn. Is Soapy Littlejohn training with Doc in those 13-year period?
Well, that's what I said. Doc would come to New York and we would train. Whenever he came to town, it was a big thing, and we knew that he was coming. We made sure that we was there, and he would come down to 123, and he would make the rounds throughout the New York area.
Right. So that's great. So let's say Doc came to New York. So I'm sure like if he did a seminar, he probably for like a day or two, or maybe a week. And then he was dipped, because around that time he was running around the world. He was in Florida, he was in Europe, he was in Caribbean, he was in Russia, he was in Japan, he was just running across the universe. So when he came back to Brooklyn so that's 13 years. But when he came back to Brooklyn in 1991, when he came back to Worlds Collide, did Soapy Littlejohn say, okay, my teacher's back, let me start training Worlds Collide? Did that happen? Did that ever happen?
Of course, Soki used to go down to Worlds Collide. Anthony Muhammad's dojo was there at that point in time, and yes, he would go down there, and Doc would come over to the dojo as well. Yes.
But did he say, okay, because it was like a 13-year gap, and then by this time when he's coming back, his movement is evolving at this point. His stuff is changing.
Yeah, and Doc always changed. His thing was always changing. And Doc would say, this is a 7-course meal. Some people only stay for the bread. Some stay for the bread and soup. Some stay for the bread, soup, and crackers. But he was like, you have to stay for the whole meal. And, the only person who knows all of Sanuces is Doc, and he's gone because it was ever changing. So now you have to ask yourself who, and it was like a slice of pie. You give everybody, slice. So you have to ask yourself who has the biggest slice. And at that point, and of course, it's Soapy Littlejohn has the biggest slice. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And any master who disputes that is in the system, they might be the modern-day master, and even those people, I got film. I got tape. Men lie, women lie, tapes don't. Okay. He's stepping across their stomachs and everything. He's stepping across their stomach, their face, or whatever else got in the way. And so for them to sit up and say, he ain't my instructor, he ain't this and that, you haven't really trained in Sanuces. If he hasn't touched you, you really haven't trained in Sanuces. As simple as that. I mean, whenever big demos come up, he would always call Soki. Whenever a matter had to be taken care of, he always called Soki. Okay.
Hey, Grandmaster, let me ask you, when you saw Doc in like 91, 92, like when he was back in New York for good, like when he was, before he moved to Connecticut, Vermont, like that, when he was in Brooklyn, when you would see him, did you, knowing him from the 70s, when you see him come back from Florida, did you see a significant difference in his movements, or did you say, that's the Doc I learned from back in the 70s.
Doc was always changing, and for the good, I might add. You know, it was no high and lows. It was just difference. At that point in time, he was doing a lot of finger locking, a lot of nerve striking, you know, and he never left you on your feet. Never left you on your feet. The technique wasn't complete if you were still standing up. Doc loved throws, always did, and he was always doing them. You know, and like I said, he would always encourage me to do them, but I wanted to, and I would do them, but I wanted to learn the way that he was doing it. So, yes, it was a little bit different, and he started using a lot of chokes as well, a lot of chokes.
Okay. So my question now is that those movements, like the pier, the short movements, like the you know, just like more to the point, the pier, the nerve striking like that. Is that part of the core when you have the Sanuces that's in VSK? Is that the core movement that you guys do?
Of course, we do some of that as well. You know, of course, that's, you know, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree; it falls right under the tree. You know, and of course we do some of those movements. You know, the Doc did so many things, even in the course of us training. You know, we could train 2-3 hours and we can't touch everything we do. You know what I'm saying? So one day we might do stick and knife, the next day we're doing wall, the next day we're doing this, we're doing that. So, you know, and this is why I wanted to, like, kind of concentrate on one particular thing or a few particular things and try to mold it at that, because we're not Doc. And if we don't perfect our jab and our punch and our throw, we're never going to know it if we're jumping around so much. You know what I'm saying? If we're doing one thing one day and something else the next day and on and on and on, you know, and we're not retracing our tracks, we're never going to learn. You know, repetition is your best teacher. You know.
Good, Grandmaster. What do you say to those people that think or claim they have it all, and maybe they're the only ones that have it?
Crazy.
And also, hold on. And also, Grandmaster, those people that do about 80% karate, 5 judo throws, and say that's Sanuces.
Yeah.
You know, because you got some people, and I'm like, no, some people do about 5 throws, and then they do a bunch of karate drills, and they say and they think it's Sanuces.
Right.
Speak on both of those issues if you could.
Well, I'm still learning. After 46 years, I learn every day. I learn from somebody's mistake. You know, I'm still learning and stuff. And Professor V said it best. He said, "He who thinks he knows it all is a fool, for his learning has ceased. But he who knows he knows not is the enlightening one."
So definitely.
So Doc told me, Doc told me, he said, "This is a 7-course meal, G." He said, "You know, you got to stay for the whole thing." He said, "I'm still eating, so you know you all got to eat."
Sure. So Sanuces, as well as any other martial arts, it has to evolve. Would you not agree?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, and I think that you need the fundamentals and the basics first before you try to create anything else.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
You know? How am I going to learn my kick if I don't know how to stand? If I don't know a front stand, how am I going to throw a correct kick? You hear what I'm saying? So, you know, of course, it's always evolving. And like I said, Doc would encourage me to do things as well. And I'm going to do those things, but I need to know the root first, you know, the textbook way first. And so it doesn't get lost. You hear what I'm saying? It's too beautiful to get lost, any of it, you know. So this is why I tried to put some kind of system together to hold on to it. So, and I told Doc, you know, I said, you know, we all got to go sometime, and when and if we do go, because I don't know, he's almost like a guy that knows he's ever going to pass, but, you know, your art needs to live on in its true form, not what people think or say or whatever, you know.
Hey, Grandmaster, you know, the Grandmaster thing that makes it so interesting is the fact that, like, as you know, like in the Sanuces bloodline, you have, you know, you pretty much, from what I'm seeing now in the 20th interview, you got 2 schools of thought. You got the fundamentalists, you know, you got the people that they don't add nothing, don't take nothing away, keep it the way it was, keep it the way he gave it, and then you have those that want to evolve that. It's so that they, you know, you got Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coming out. You know, I'm into boxing, so they want to put more boxing. Somebody's into floor fighting, you want to put more floor fighting. Somebody onto knives, whatever. Okay, so you got the modernist view, you got the fundamentalist view. Just for the sake of the fundamental argument, the fundamentalists say that Sanuces is too vast. it would say that Sanuces rule in and of itself would take you a lifetime to master. It's too much to know. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, it was so, even within the Sanuces rule, you had the complete, you had the Sanuces rule, you had the Sanuces eye to eye, you had the stuff he was doing with Vermont when he was on the cane. Then you had when he got in the wheelchair, when he couldn't move, when he had to bring you real close to him. Matter of fact, I've been studying stuff like that on YouTube. So it's probably about 5 different evolutions. So within Sanuces rule, there's probably about 5 different sub-Sanuces rule systems. So you could, if I was a lawyer, I could make the argument that you could actually spend a lifetime mastering just Sanuces rule. Of
course, it's a way of life.
Right. So if Sanuces rule in and of itself is something that you could dedicate your entire life to, how do you then on top of that throw Kumite rule and Jiu-Jitsu?
Because they're all intertwined anyway. And Doc said, don't eat till you're full, eat until you please. So grab something and try to master that. And let it be, the pure form. And then you can always create from that. We were the first mixed martial artists. Anyway. Right. You understand? That label belongs to us. We done that first. When we used to spar, we didn't spar karate. And shit, we would do the kick punch, but we go right into the throws. You hear what I'm saying? We went into the throws, and we went into the mat work and everything else. You had to fight on the ground. It wasn't no get up, stop, yame, point here. We didn't call points. You hear? We didn't call points. It wasn't no point this side, stop, you're on the floor. No, it was like you was in a real fight. You hear what I'm saying? So if you made it out the dojo, you was definitely going to make it in the street. You hear what I'm saying? That was a given, like I said, then they come on with the sport, and they did a sport style. What they had MMA now is a sport. It's literally a sport that you can turn to art. Ours was an art, and stuff is what we were doing, And when we went to karate tournaments, 60% of our stuff went out the window because the first thing they said, oh, you can't sweep, you can't throw, none of that choking, no arm bars, all of that, So they would try to get me out of there quick because they were afraid I was going to throw somebody or hurt somebody, And they used to do that to Soki, too, a lot of times. And then Doc would get frustrated and say, hey, knock them out. Let's go home. And Soki, bop, 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 bing. And then they go. And they go out. So the next time they come, they don't want to cheat no more. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Grandmaster, let's say, inshallah, when I get my black belt sanctioned, let's say I get my black belt under Shihan, and I get my black belt Sanuces rule, and this is hypothetical, and I'm sanctioned by the USFA. If I ever wanted to go and be part of the VSK, does the VSK Federation recognize my USFA black belt?
Of course. And, just like Doc, they're not trying to take away from anything that you're doing or have. They're just trying to add to it. And we all can use some additives. We're all learning. Soki still learns. You hear what I'm saying? Everybody's learning and stuff. And I respect all the ranks that Doc ever given anybody. You hear what I'm saying? I respect. I've had the privilege to work out with the old, the new, and the in between. And I respect all of the masters and grandmasters and professors that Doc made. There's no ifs and buts about that. Who am I to say what they deserve, what they don't deserve? If Doc gave it to them, they deserve it. As simple as that. What I don't agree on is some people went out after Doc's passing and promoted themselves. And that I don't recognize, because if you spent a moment, if you spent 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 hours, 5 years with Doc, that was a blessing. It doesn't get any better than that. So you should appreciate what he gave you. And I've known people to go out and say, well, it took 3 instructors to promote me to this rank. And I'm like, what the hell have they got to do with Sanuces? I mean, if you're building cars and I'm building planes, you know what I'm saying? We're doing 2 different things, So just appreciate the things that Doc gave you and work from there, But people are going out giving themselves ranks. They were falsifying certificates, all of this madness, But, that's a different story. But, of course, we recognize anybody. And I always thought it was just one family. I don't know about the new Sanuces family and the old, I just thought it was one. I didn't even know anything about the new one until it arrived. I never heard anything about it. And that was a surprise.
Grandmaster, I was talking to Grandmaster Crossan and I'm just going to just one little conversation I had with him, and he was saying that because in the last interview he got his 8th down in 1988, but he was telling me that he's a very humble man, but I just wanted to also just put on record that he also told me that eventually Doctor gave him his 9th degree, and then Grandmaster Dr. Powell and Professor Lee sanctioned his 10th Dan as a Grandmaster, and gave him his blessings of Sugar Blue Crossing. And that's just the end I want to talk about with my brother Crossing. But what I wanted to know was, did Professor B or Doctor, did they ever sanction VSK?
Professor B, I worked out with him a few times at seminars and things like that. So I wasn't a direct student of his, so I don't know his feelings on that. But I know that, Little John used to go to work out with him all the time. All the time. I knew that to be. So there was no conflict there. And Doc knew, that I was working out with Soki and him. So, and like I said, they used to speak to each other all the time. Doc was here constantly, and I would call Little John would call me, and I would put him on the phone, they would talk with each other. And whenever big demos came, Little John was always there. The Masters with Wesley Snipes, any kind of thing, functions that they used to have for Professor B at Long Island University, I have all of these tapes, So for people who was trying to say there was friction there, that's BS. Like I said, Doc still spoke to Professor B when he stepped off, and stuff. He just created his own system. Like I said, he brought that with him, So it's like raising your kid. I mean, one day he has to leave home. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you don't get mad at your kid because he left home. You're happy that he's able to do that.
Well, let me ask you, since VSK does have Sanuces in it, what can, like is any kind of thing we could do? Like, maybe we could have a big seminar with, because I'm all about I'm all about unity, but but anything we could do, like the USFA and the VSK could have one big event, and maybe VSAK practitioners could do something, the USA people can do something, and it could just be an evening of just peace and harmony, and brothers meet and build like that.
And I miss those days. I remember being on the mat with so many great technicians within the Sanuces family. It's really missed. I can't speak for them. I'm not the spokesman for them, but I would think so. If we could do it on neutral ground, if it wasn't under one sanction, I would think so. And that needs to be done, really. If you all come out and do a demo or some competitions or whatever, I'm pretty sure, everybody, each organization or whatever, or if it would be neutral or whatever it may be, would benefit from that. Of course, and the students definitely would. And even the masters, because everybody has their own flavor. When we go to seminars, Professor Bill might do this, I might do that. Grandmaster Shanique may do something else, and so you have all of these different mixes, So it's always gratifying and always, it's always an eye-opener to go and get something new, because everybody has their own flavor on, what it is and what they're doing. But, so, of course, that would be beneficial for everybody who's, practitioners of Sanuces, of course.
How could we get all 15 of, because me personally, I don't care about none of y'all guys' beef. I'm a fanatic, I'm a fan. And so as a fan, I want to see, like you say, I want to see the original Temptations. I want to see all you guys on the stage. I'm willing to pay whatever it is for a ticket. You know what I mean? I don't care about none of that crap y'all was beefing on back in the 70s, 80s. I can care less about
that. And, I don't get into the politics thing. I never did either,
Yeah. So what can I do? What can me and Shihan do on the mat? What can we do right now to get all 15 of you guys on the same, all of you guys on the same stage?
Well, I think you're working towards that now. The longer we can have talks and things like this, it may be, it can happen. The dialogue is the first step, towards it, because it was some misunderstandings. I'm pretty sure, I know I was kind of mixed up. I didn't even know anything about the other organization until it happened.
You're talking about the USFA?
Correct.
Okay.
If we had shown up, that usually Professor Saifullah Amarichi, he has a very good turnout, and at that point, I guess some people may have went to Alan Goldberg's thing, and so the people who went were kind of surprised, and other people didn't know anything about it. And, you go there and all of a sudden, it's a new, they're talking about a new organization. Do you want to join? So, it's like, it's like war. You know, you're the generals, and the privates call you up and say, we got our army. Do you want to join? So you kind of say, what? You know, it was like a shock and a surprise to everybody. And I think this is why a lot of the other Grandmasters, you know, didn't join, so to speak. You know, if we had a democratic, it needs to be more democratic. You know, kind of a thing. And some of the people who were involved weren't even participating in Sanuces when Doc passed. You know, so some of them people weren't even practicing for 9 years or so. And then some had not been on the mat since the 80s, you know. So it was a real surprise. They were like, who, what? You know what I'm saying? Just, you know, nobody told anybody anything. And so it was a big surprise to hear this, you know. And I would have been there, but I got sick. I had the flu. You know, nobody told me nothing about this, you know. So when you kind of go around things, you know, and it makes it difficult, you know. It should have been something, you know, more democratic and a vote and everything else, you know. And I think that's probably where the problem set in, you know.
Well, you know, go ahead, Stephen.
I'll tell you what, if I'm at war, and you know, the captain dies, I don't want a private in charge. You know what I'm saying? My life is on the line here. You know, so you know,
Grandmaster Logan, I was told by numerous people in the USFA that invites and information was sent out to like all the senior Grandmasters, and that
was after.
It was after, okay, because
that was
like,
after the organization was founded. That's when they sent them out to people and told them they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that. It's like you speaking English and they call you up the next day and say, don't speak English no more. What else are you going to speak? That's what you speak. You know, and if they had done this prior to that, people would have known. But no, I might have been the last one to get a letter. But other than that, no, nobody knew about this until after the fact, after it had happened.
Yes, sir.
Well,
yes,
Grandmaster Crosser, moving forward. I mean, you know, it is what it is. You know, when I first heard that when I first heard that term, it is what it is. I hated that term. You know what I mean? Because it is what it is. It's like so final. You know what I mean? But as I hear it, you know what I'm saying? But it's for real. You know? Because the reality is this: VSK ain't going nowhere, and USFA ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So and the thing is, I got love for you. I got love for anybody that Doc had love for. Period. You know what I'm saying?
And I still have love for the brothers over there too, because they're great technicians. We just need to come together. That's all. You know.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to look at this like no Republican, Democrat, blood crip. You know what I mean? It's like, what can we do to use the remaining 20 minutes of this show? What ideas can we do to bring about unity between the USFA and VSK? Because you know, if we came together, do you know that I can get all you guys on one show? I could bring my daughters. We can go. We'll buy the tickets. We can have some popcorn, and I could say, man, look at the original Temptations on stage. You know what I mean? And I mean, you would have thousands of people at this event. You know what I mean? You talk about a retirement plan. Each one of you guys on that stage will probably walk away with $1 million. So I mean, you could do a world tour. You could do a tour in Japan. You could be on tour for 5 years. Right. So what can we do for the next 20 minutes? I don't want to talk about nothing else. What can we do for the next 20 minutes to bring about UMA, to bring about unity between the USFA and the VSK? What can we do? Give me some ideas.
And not only those two, Grandmaster, but all the other factions, like Sugaroo and things like that. You know who's hurting? The people like Shabazz, the co-host here, who didn't spend a significant amount of time with Doc, and didn't spend a lot of significant time with Doc's senior people. You know, so he's going to be the only people he's dealing with right now. Is, of course, my dojo, the Senjokai dojo, and then a few other people that we run in contact to. But like the VSK, although it's not off limits, because I don't let anybody tell me what's off limits for our dojo. I won't say we haven't been formally invited, because you brothers have been very, very nice and very inviting to us. But we just feel like, especially some of the students like the Joker, also was on the phone. The people who never really spend any time with Doc, they're not seeing a full representation maybe of what Doc had to offer and what each of his senior students and his disciples had to offer. To be like Shabbat said earlier, with like Christ's disciples, and of course I'm not comparing Doc to Christ and any of us to his disciples, but what I am saying is that if you only got if you only saw 2 of the 3 disciples, you got 9 or 10 other disciples who got other stories that may be different. Some stories may be better, some stories may not be, but still you get a full view, a full circle of what Christ's teaching was. So that's what I'm saying for the people that are not in VSK, or the people that are not in USFA, or the people that are not in Sugar Room. If we can get some type of workout.
And let me just go, and Grandmaster, I just want to add on what my teacher said, what Shehan said, and I want to say this. This is all metaphysical, not nothing with that, with Pete Esau, peace be upon him. But we're just talking about the magnitude of command that relates to martial art, and using that metaphysical allegory, if that is the case, and if the disciples are what they are, and knowing the history of Christianity, the disciples did not begin to start telling their story until about 50, 60 years after his death, and then when they did, most of them were killed. And the guy that propagated it throughout the world didn't even see Christ. It was Paul. And so on the mat, Shehan, Shabazz, Joker, we represent Paul, but Paul is not an individual. Paul is a generation. Paul is the young generation. And the young and if you feed the young generation, if you pour the wisdom into the young generation like the disciples did, Paul, which is the young generation, will propagate it around the universe. So all I'm saying is that if you're a disciple, we are Paul. What can we do to put that crap, all that baggage you have, forget all of that. What can we do to come together and put it back on the top of the mountain?
Pray that it happens. Pray that it happens. But I'm just one man.
But Grandmaster, like Christ said, faith, prayer without action is nothing. What actions can we do? What the poor generation, the young generation, we've already started that. But what are some physical things we could do to make this happen?
Well, first of all, I think we all need to sit down at the table and we need to talk. Exactly. And after that, I think we need to try to come together and get some kind of demonstration, like you said, and seminar. I think we should work on seminars first, and then from there we can go on stage and do demonstrations and things like that, and we'll get a better understanding of what happened and what should happen, and sitting down talking, of course, is the first step. And hopefully that can happen, and I can bring that back, but like I said, I'm not in charge, I'm not the referee, I'm just a player in the game, but you are a big player, and it sounds good, and it can be good, and hopefully it will be, and like you said, ain't nothing final but death, and hopefully we really can come together, because Doc left so much behind, and everybody got a piece of it. Some pieces are bigger than others, but still in all, it takes the whole thing to make it, a full piece stuff. And like you said, with action and prayer, maybe it will happen.
Yeah, man, I think that because Grandmaster Carson, let me give you a vision. Check this out. Madison Square Garden, right? They got a host out there, and you know what I mean? Coming to the stage. Okay, Grandmaster, Little John Davis, Grandmaster, Sugar Crossing, Grandmaster, Shem Yehuda Shem, Grandmaster, George Logan, Grandmaster, Toki Hassan Khalid, Grandmaster, Noel Arrington, Grandmaster, Nelson Coles, Senior Professor Saifullah, Senior Grandmaster Anaconda, Shehan Salahuddin, Grandmaster Gino Alfarano, Professor Denson, Professor Urban Muhammad, Grandmaster Anthony Muhammad, Professor Yusuf Rockline, Grandmaster Al Woods, Professor Darryl Sargent, and everyone else who I didn't mention. Imagine you had all these disciples on one stage, and imagine the crowd going, they just cheering. I mean, hundreds of people in the audience, people getting emotional, people cry. You know what I'm saying? And then before you know it, whoever just starts to say, us, and everybody said us, and everybody. Right, and then my shit gets up there, and then the Senju Kai comes in, the Karoshi Kai Kanga, the VSK get up there, the sugar will boom. Man, that's an emotional. Just thinking about that shit.
Sure would be. That would be the show of shows, no doubt.
You know what I mean? And then check this out. That's New York, and then in 2 weeks, that same show going to be in Boston. That same show going to be in Philadelphia. That same show going to be in California. That same show going to be in Japan. Then before you know it, some big $1 million company pick it up and say, the hell, we're going to take you around the world. That's what I'm talking about. That's the Ummah. That's the unity.
Right. And like I said,
do you see that vision?
Yes, I can, and I hope that it would happen. And I know you were talking to Sean, but yes, I see that vision as well, and I hope that it would happen. Doc has produced so many great people. Like I said, I have respect for all of those people. Instructors will wish they can produce one good student. If you watch Fight Quest and Human Weapons, and they search the world around, and they go get, and I like these things. I've taped a lot of them, but you never see, and not being biased, but you never see, and you look at them yourself, okay? You never see no one on the level of Doc. I don't care if they're in Egypt or, Japan or Korea, and let alone his disciples or his students. You just named off 12, 15, great technicians now. You're never going to see that anywhere else. And so, that would be great if all of us could come together. Definitely. This is
what I want to tell you, to tell my brothers in the VSK. First of all, I want you to tell them that it's all love here. You know what I mean? And that we all one family. You understand? And we don't have to be one family. We don't have to be political. We could be, like you said, we all from the streets. Doc was from the streets. You know what I'm saying? But Doc is our father. You know what I'm saying? He's our father. And all the grandmasters and the senior professors, y'all his sons, and we his grandchildren. You know what I'm saying? And we got to come together, and we got to put this shit back on the top. We got to put it back on the, like my teacher said, back on the top of the mountain. This is Sanuces nation. We can't let this nation fall. You know what I'm saying? I take this shit real remote because this shit fucks with me. You know what I'm saying? Because this is for real. You know what I'm saying? I don't be doing these interviews just to be doing these interviews.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I work 12 hours a day. I got 3 daughters, joint custody. You know what I'm saying? I got mad shit, crazy ass. You know what I'm saying? I got all kind of shit I got to deal with. Crazy ass clients. But I still take time out to do these shows. You know what I'm saying? I still take time out to do these shows. Because I want to, you know what I mean? This is the 20th show.
You need to train it.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not doing this shit just to be doing this show. Like, I'm doing this show, like, hopefully I do one show, something little John said, okay, brother, forget this. We're gonna break this all down. Because, cats like, Grandmaster, Grandmaster Noah Arrington, and you got Soke Little John. This is like the Gambino and the Colombo family. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they so high up, I can't even. I'm talking to the heavens, and I hope they hear me.
Right.
I'm talking to Soke Little John. I'm talking to Noah Arrington. They need to, y'all need to come together, do what you're gonna do behind closed doors, and come on stage so I can see the big show.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Yeah. And if it was in my power, that would definitely happen. No ifs and buts about it. Like I said, I miss the brothers that I've been on the mats with and everything else. But hopefully we can come together and do that. And sooner than later. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, because because the reality is this, Grandmaster, is that if you don't save the system, if you don't come to save the system will die.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I do my numbers thing, and I try to preserve it, so it won't die, exactly. And like I said, this is, one of the great, and I've seen a lot in the martial arts, and a lot of great masters and everything else, but none of the systems that compare with this, and none compared with Doc, So something definitely has to be done. No ifs and buts about it,
So you know what I'm gonna say on the air. This is how I think it should be. If you're not about unity, you're not about Doc. Point blank. If you're not about unity, you're about your selfish self. It's all about you. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
it's all about you.
They did a lot of things in Jesus' name too that really didn't have to do with religion. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people are using Doc's name falsely as well. So we need to come to some kind of, something that's real. You know what I'm saying? And not a bunch of BS just using Doc's name for the sake of, doing what you want to do. So this is why we do have to sit down and talk and iron out things,
Well, I will hope that the VSK brothers will take the spirit of Shabazz and will be about unity, and they will urge their brothers over there to be about unity. And I hope that it becomes contagious where you can't even ignore it.
Yeah. Well, the doors are always open. VSK. The doors are always open. Like I said, they hear every voice that speaks, So, it can happen. It can definitely happen.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Shabazz, how much time do we have, Shabazz?
We got 11 more minutes.
Okay, good. All right. Well, Grandmaster, man, let me ask you. Unless you got another question. You got another question, Shabazz? I'm gonna ask something.
No. I'm dead. I'm good on it.
Good, Grandmaster. Just speaking on behalf of yourself, of course, and Soki. What I want to. Do you feel, and we only got 11 minutes, so I want you to kind of give me the short answer. Do you feel that Soki Littlejohn, who is getting the respect from everyone that should be given to him, because like you just said, like Sugar Crossan, who I respect tremendously, also said it was Dr. Moses Powell, it was Mr. Obscure, it was Professor V, it was Dr. Moses Powell, and then it was Soki Littlejohn. And of course, you said Soki Littlejohn was the branch, and that we were the lead. So I understand you feel the same way. If you could just speak on that, not even really if he gets the respect, but why he should get it, and why he deserves it, and why you give it to him, and why if anybody that knows Moses Powell, the stature of Soki Littlejohn as a student of Moses Powell and as Mr. V.
One is because Littlejohn's one of the original students that went back and helped build Sanuces, the reputation and the name and the techniques as well. Of course, it came from Doc, but he brushed them off. He was the one who gave you your basic falls and throws and everything. And by the time you got to Doc, you better know him because he was throwing you or he was hitting you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people came and left, A lot of people came and left, A lot of people said, well, I was training since 1964, and we didn't have any match, and we did this and that. And a lot of them, that was the last time they did train, And so, like I said, he's been there for the test of time. He's been there, longer than anybody else. And he's been a premier fighter as well, and whenever, and I have tapes where, like I said, when they bowed into dojo, Professor B would be there, they would bow into Professor V, then they would bow to Doc, and Doc would make him turn around and bow to Soki. So the order is explanatory, I have these tapes, I can send them to you, And these other people, of course, they're great people, and and they've done great things inside Nucleus. But we know who's next in line, and he deserves the respect because he has the time in, he has the technique, and he can fight. I mean, it's as simple as that.
It boils down to if you can fight or not.
And I'm pretty sure if anybody disputed that, he'd be more than happy. So I mean, you earn your respect. It's not given, you earn it. You earn it, and he's definitely earned it. And, I can sit up and say about all the things I know and everything, too. But, it is what it is. And, he definitely has my nod. It's as simple as that, And anybody who's been around, excuse me?
No, go ahead.
And anybody who's been around for any length of time really knows that. When a senior member passes, when your father, your mother passes or whatever, it's kind of known that, the elder of the family is kind of trying to take over, kind of things. And you may have, the younger brother, well, he ain't my father, he ain't my mother. But, we kind of know the way things are supposed to be, And you're always going to get people who are rebellious and everything. But fact is fact, and that's that, really, I mean, and we all still need to grow. He's not going to take away anything that you got. You're just adding on to it. And we do need some kind of organization. Doc, did his whole life was martial arts, and he left a great legacy behind. And it needs to be mentored and carried on to the next level, And just to maintain it would be great in itself, It's just to maintain what he has, because there is no more Doc. As simple as that. He had the charisma, the personality, the strength. And Doc, believe me, and stuff, he was so giving. I've seen him, go up to brothers who hadn't trained in a long time. They might be down and dirty, and he would go in his pocket and just give them money and help them and encourage them and things like that. So, Doc was a great person, and if he likes you, he'll give you anything,
But Grandmaster, but in all reality, a lot of his students, they may feel like they're not getting respect, but when Doc was living, he didn't get no respect. I did 20 interviews, and in certain interviews, I did a lot of stuff off the record. He didn't get the respect he didn't get the respect he deserved, and he's the doggone founder. You know what I'm saying?
Well, exactly. And he, like I said, he's been so great, and that's because a lot of times people try to classify him as a black instructor. Doc is an instructor of martial art, not a black instructor. And, of course, he was happy and proud to be a black man, but he transcended beyond being a black martial artist. And then some people have seen him in the eyes of that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that even amongst his own students.
Well, I don't know. Those must be the ones who quit.
No, I'm going to tell you what. I give an example. I'm going to give an example. There was an interview with, I think, Brother Christopher Muhammad on YouTube, and he talked in that interview. He said, yeah, brother. He said, this brother's out here. He said, if I get out here, you'd be surprised. Masters, Grandmasters, I do a technique. You'd be surprised. I get up, and they come behind me, can't even do the technique that I just did. And he said, if I got it right now, I can embarrass a lot of them. He said, wow. He said, God is good. You know what I'm saying? He said, they don't give me the respect now. He was talking about masters there on the floor. And this is the father saying that. I'm talking about the father.
Right,
so if the father's not getting the respect from his children, because that's what Gina said. That's what she said in that interview, Gina Powell. She said he looked at him like that and said, that's his children. So if his children's not giving him respect, how can the children? And that's what Doc said. Doc said, if you don't give me respect, how are you going to expect the students to give you respect? You know what I'm saying? And so the thing is that they didn't get a father the respect. So if the father died with no respect, then who are the children that demand all this respect? You see what I'm saying? So my whole thing is let an L be for an L. You know what I'm saying? Just off the strength of the father, he didn't get the respect that he needed. So let it slide. Because if we don't let it slide, it's hypocrisy.
Well, yeah, and there was a different order too. Back in the day, if you didn't get a respect, you had a knock on your door. You know what I'm saying? It's as simple as that. And as I said, we kind of got away from that kind of a training. And so when that happens, you're going to get rebellious people and things like that when they know that you can go out and commit these things and get no feedback. Back in the day, even if you didn't come to class, somebody would be at your door. If you had a problem with somebody, you would send somebody. And you didn't want them to show up at your doorstep, believe that and stuff.
Hey, Grandmaster Logan, in the few short minutes we have. Listen, go ahead and tell the people, give me your website address, your contact number, the days, the training. Let the people know where you are, and who, and whether they know who you are, where you are, time, and things like that, and how you can be reached.
Okay. Also, can I add too? Also, that my Hartford dojo was here in Hartford. The doc used to be teaching down here on Wednesdays, and we had him in New Haven on Mondays. We're still at the Monday and Wednesday in New Haven. Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Our time is from 6 to 10 on Monday and Wednesdays, and 11 to 12:30 on Saturdays. My website is ctsurvival.org. Okay. Also, we have some tapes out, and like I said, on these tapes, I have some judo tapes that are going to be coming out, and we're going to show the correct way. And you can put your spin on it. You know what I'm saying? You can do what you want to do, but I'm going to show you the correct way of breaking the kazushi, doing the throws, the application, all of this. Also, we're going to be having the sets coming out. Like I said, the way I got it from Doc, not the watered-down version, not what I wanted to be or anybody else, the way it was taught to me. We're going to be having these tapes out as well. Also, look out for us on online training very, very shortly. Very, very short. Yeah.
So good. Grandmaster, this was a great interview.
Absolutely.
And I just matter of fact, let me just applaud. You know.
Yeah, this is one of our best interviews, Grandmaster Logan.
Hey, we got about 2 minutes left. Can you tell us a little bit about your career? Like, how did you get into the movie business?
Good. And quickly before you do that, and Grandmaster, before you do that, please give him my regards and send your kind regards to Little John Davis. Let him know he is a friend and ally, and he is more than welcome to do an interview.
Yes.
Yeah, and I actually did speak to Little John. I call him from time to time, and he said he's going to be giving me an interview before the year is out. I did.
Yeah, that's pretty close to that. I think it's coming pretty close to that, and I'll speak to him about that as well.
No problem.
But the acting thing, a friend of mine, Warrington Hudlin, who had trained originally with Doc and Little John, was going to Yale University, and he would come every summer to get credits towards his cinematography, and he attended Yale. And so after he graduated from Yale, he went on to New York and worked as a cameraman and did some other things in New York. And then he always tried to encourage me to come and do little plays and things like that when he was at Yale. And I didn't want to, and he was like, "You have personality, you can do this," and I never did.
Grandmaster, I've got 60 seconds left. I don't want this to cut you off, but I will give you a part two. We do owe you another interview, and we could pick up, where you left off with the career.
Right.
You got 30 seconds left.
I want to thank you much for having me, and may peace and blessings and goodwill be upon all of the Sanuces participants, and you and Shihan as well. And thank you for this interview.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Eye to eye, heart to heart.
Heart to heart.
Heart to heart.
To the wall and back, each one. Oof.
Us.